Well, hey friends, and welcome into my homestead kitchen. This week I'm going to take you along and share with you what we are making for dinner each night this week. I'm going to be making everything from scratch, and I hope that you guys will join along and see what we have going on this week. It is Monday, and normally we have spaghetti on Monday, but we're changing up the menu a little bit. It is a gorgeous day outside. It is the end of January. It is like over 50 degrees outside, so we have to do some grilling. Tonight we're going to grill some fish, some salmon to be specific. I'm not a fish person, so it takes me a little while to hype up myself to go ahead and cook some fish, but I want to incorporate more of those meats with the nice omega-3 fats in there. So we've been trying to incorporate a little bit more fish. I'm not crazy about fish, but we're gonna do it tonight. I made some bread this morning. It's sourdough brown bread from Farmhouse on Boone. I will link her recipe down below. I mixed it early this morning. It's been fermenting all day. I shaped it and then I let it rise again. Once it was ready, I brushed it with some water on the tops, sprinkled some sprouted oats on top, and threw it in the oven. So we just got that in the oven, and now I'm gonna go ahead and get the rice started. Now, the grilling is only gonna take, I don't know, honestly, I really don't know how to cook fish. I don't like cooking inside. I like to grill it outside because I'm not a fan of the smell and I don't wanna stink up the house. So it's probably only gonna take like 10 to 15 minutes. Honestly, I probably overcook it. If you have any tips for cooking or grilling fish, leave them down below because I am no expert, but that's what we're having for dinner tonight. So I've got my Instant Pot here. We are going to be cooking some brown rice. It takes about 45 minutes on the stove, and I never think about it in time to get it actually started. So I'm actually gonna do my Instant Pot because I throw it in here and it only cooks for about 22 to 23 minutes, and I don't have to babysit it. I don't have to do anything. I just throw it in there. When I cook my rice in the Instant Pot, you do a 1-to-1 ratio. So I have a 1.5 cups of water in here. So I'm gonna cook a 1.5 cups of brown rice. Now, depending on what we're having, sometimes I'll cook white jasmine rice, but today we're doing brown rice since I really like brown rice. I have some of this garlic herb seasoning. It already has salt in it and it has a lot of really good herbs. I'm almost out of this. I get this at Costco. So I'm just gonna add like a tablespoon in there. And if I had chicken broth or beef broth, I would use that in here, but I am all out. I'm also going to add a little bit of butter. This is grass-fed butter from Costco. It is such a healthy fat, and our brains need fat, and we need fat to help make hormones. So don't be afraid to use a little bit of good fat here. This gives it some nice flavor. I'm gonna cook this for about 23 minutes, and that's all there is to it. We still have some carrots from the garden. As you can see, they're kind of growing some roots, but we're just gonna scrub those right off and we're gonna do some roasted carrots. So for my seasonings, I just sprinkle a little bit of some extra virgin olive oil on here. And then I just use some of this Trader Joe's garlic salt. And my favorite seasoning for carrots is rosemary. I just sprinkle a little bit on, and then I get my hands in there and I mix it up. This is not quite ready to go in the oven, but we will put it in for about 15 minutes at 400 degrees. If you're wondering what brown bread is, it's that dark, rich bread that they bring you at restaurants before you eat with that honey butter to smother it on. It's so good. However, they get that dark coloring from caramel color. Now, caramel color is not like a food dye like red or blue food coloring, but it is a coloring that comes from corn syrup usually. It's something I can't have. It's something I avoid. It's in a lot of things. It's in most barbecue sauces as well as a lot of other things to get that darker color. So I don't buy stuff with it. I was really excited to find this recipe. It's a sourdough recipe from Farmhouse on Boone. The coloring comes comes from, that dark color, comes from some whole wheat flour, molasses, and some cocoa powder. So I'm wondering if you're gonna be able to taste the cocoa in this bread. I don't know, but I'm super excited to try this, and I just thought it sounded really nice to go with this dinner that we're having tonight. There's nothing like fresh bread right out of the oven, hot, fresh, with butter on it. We're gonna give this a try. That's really good. Really good. Give it a try. Fingers crossed we can get this to light. It's kind of broken, so we'll see. Woo, we got it. We got it. So this is the fish we buy. It's just from Costco. It's the wild caught Alaskan salmon. So we're gonna just season it with some salt. I have this citrusy garlic from Trader Joe's we're gonna do. I think it's a little on the spicier side or spiced side. So we're gonna just spring, I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea what kind of seasonings to use on this kind of thing, but this is what we're doing tonight. All right, now that that's ready, let's go ahead and get that on the grill. I also have some of this African smoke that I'm gonna go ahead and put on there as well. Might as well just season it all up. I don't know, we'll see how this turns out. I'm gonna put the carrots in here at 400 degrees since I just took the bread out. And now we're gonna go throw the fish on the grill. This makes the most perfect rice ever. It's nice and fluffy and it smells so good. It is Tuesday afternoon and I'm gonna go ahead and get the crock pot started for dinner tonight. I am making some garlic chicken drumsticks. I'm gonna slice up the very two last teensy tiny onion bulbs that we grew from our garden. They've already kind of sprouted a little bit, so I'm just gonna pull out the sprouts and line the bottom of the crock pot with that. You need way more, but this is all we've got to work with. You also need 20 cloves of garlic. This is garlic that, yes, we grew in our garden and it's already starting to sprout, so I'm just gonna slice each one of those up and then take out the sprouts and throw them in the crock pot. And believe me, you need all 20 garlic cloves because this recipe is so good and garlicky. There it all is in there. It's supposed to be a lot fuller with onions, but this is what we got, so this is what we're gonna work with. For my marinade, I'm just gonna put a couple tablespoons of olive oil in a Ziploc bag with some salt, some black pepper, some garlic powder, yes, more garlic, and then 2 teaspoons of paprika or paprika, I don't know how to say it. So I'm gonna put that in there, and I could totally do this in a bowl to kind of save on plastic bags, but I find it easiest to just mix it in a plastic bag. Now I have some drumsticks from Costco. I find this to be one of the cheapest cuts of meat. I do buy the organic ones because I like to save the bones and turn them into bone broth, so I want to make sure that I get the organic kind. There's about 4 or 5 drumsticks in each of these packets, and I just use 2 of them for our family of 4. So I'm going to just open them up and put them right into the Ziploc bag here, zip it up and mix it around really good until they're all coated in the seasoning. Then I'm going to put them in a single layer in the crock pot to make sure it's all spread out, and then cook it on high for about 4 hours until they're all thoroughly cooked and tender, falling off the bone. We're gonna make some mashed potatoes in the Instant Pot to go with our chicken. It is almost done sizzling away. So you notice our potatoes have sprouts on them. We're down to the last few potatoes, and they just, over time, they sprout, but they're still good. You can just pull the sprouts off. I need to go through and pull all the sprouts off of the remaining potatoes. But some of them are a little bit, you can see it's a little wrinkly and a little bit on the squishy, soft side. And that's okay, that just happens as the potatoes age down there. Look at that root we've got going on there. But that's okay. We're gonna scrub these up. Actually, I'm gonna peel them and then I'm gonna wash them, and they'll make fine mashed potatoes. They're not as good as, you know, fresh out of the ground, but they're still totally edible. It is Wednesday, and it is another glorious winter day outside in the 50s, gorgeous and sunny. We're gonna grill burgers tonight for dinner. Now, last year I made a goal to not buy any store-bought bread, and I almost made that goal aside from a camping trip, but I made all our buns and everything, and so I'm gonna get some hamburger buns going, and I'm gonna show you a little trick. If you want to make a quick bread, this probably will take an hour and a half. I mean, it's 2 o'clock, so I've got plenty of time, but if you don't want to get out your big old mixer, if you don't have a KitchenAid and you don't want to do it by hand, use your food processor. Mine actually has a dough button, and this is what I make my pizza crust in. This is what I make small batches of rolls and buns and stuff like that. So I'm going to show you how I do that with my food processor. I've got some warmed milk and water. To this, I'm going to add 3/4 of a tablespoon, eyeballing it, of yeast, and like a teaspoon of honey to activate that yeast. And I'm just gonna mix this up with a fork just to kind of proof my yeast and make sure my yeast is good and get that all nice and activated. I am a huge fan of whole grains and try to use them exclusively. However, there's a few instances where it's just a little nicer if I do about half and half. So this is just some organic bread flour. It's actually from red wheat, so it kind of has a darker hue to it. So we're gonna do about a cup and a half of that, and then I'm also going to put in some wheat flour. I'm gonna do about a cup and a half of whole wheat flour. Also 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm not gonna measure my honey because I don't like to measure honey, so we're gonna do about a tablespoon or so, 2 tablespoons. 2 nice big blobs of honey. This is about a half a recipe, so I'm gonna do 1 egg. If I was doing a full recipe, I would do it in my Bosch machine, but I don't feel like getting that out because it's a pain to clean. I just melted some butter in my cast iron skillet. Butter is really nice in here. Normally I do like olive oil or something, but I decided to be fancy today and just add some butter. So like I said, mine has a dough option. If yours doesn't have a dough option, I think you can still use it. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn it on, pour it in. I'm gonna check it and see. It's pretty sticky, which you don't want it super dry. A little sticky is fine as long as it's not sticking too much to the sides and you're okay. So we're gonna just let this knead for just a few minutes. Greased my bowl, my hands, the counter. Now it is time to kind of knead it a little bit by hand just to bring it to a nice little ball of dough. I did add more water because it was a little bit more stiff than I would like. So I'm just gonna Knead it a little bit by hand. It's a very soft, pliable dough. You don't want it to be stiff because your buns will be crumbly and dried out. I've got it oiled in here. I'm just gonna put it in here, spin it around, and coat the top and cover it. We're gonna let this rise for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes until it's about doubled, and then we'll come back to it. You can see it's risen double, about double. So I'm gonna spray my counter here, kind of rub it around, spray my hands. This is beautiful, soft dough. I don't know how many buns this is gonna make, so we'll have to see. I don't want them too big. I might be able to make 10 buns. So to shape these, I'm gonna try to keep them round a little bit. Kind of just tuck the end under. And then I roll my hand like this to get it nice and round and smooth. And I'm gonna push it out. I'm not a very good bun shaper, but I kind of want it wide and flat. And they will rise, but they'll be a little flatter, so. I'm gonna take this other cookie sheet and just put it upside down over it, because if I put a wet rag over it, sometimes they'll stick. So we're just gonna let that rise till they're about double. I'm cleaning out the refrigerator, so ignore all this here. But I did put a towel over it because I couldn't get the edges to completely seal, but they've been rising for a little while. Okay, so I have an egg white wash here. I probably could have just done the whole egg, but I'm gonna brush these, and I wish I had sesame seeds, which I don't. My next Azure order, I've got them coming, so.
We're gonna have some sweet potato fries for dinner. I've got some sweet potatoes that I got from Costco that you saw in my last haul. I'm gonna peel them because I find that the skins are a little bit tough, and then I'm gonna slice them in half and then just cut them into fry shape.
So I just like to drizzle it. Sometimes I use coconut oil and sprinkle it with cinnamon, but I'm just using some avocado oil here. And all we do is just avocado oil and salt. The secret to crispy fries, whether sweet potato or regular, is to make sure you have airflow between them and they're not touching.
I bake these in a 400-degree oven for about 35 to 40 minutes until they're nice and golden brown, and then I flip them halfway through the cooking time. This is some fresh romaine lettuce that I picked from our greenhouse. If you saw my last cooking video, I like to let it soak here in some water just to get all the bugs off, and then I'll rinse it. The best burger seasoning is this onion salt from Trader Joe's, smoked paprika, salt and pepper, and then we just use these organic grass-fed burgers that we got from Costco. These buns turned out absolutely amazing. They are so good. I will never buy store-bought hamburger buns again if I can help it. I'm going to slice these up and then I'll freeze whatever we don't use.
Here's the burgers. I just brought them inside. We've got lettuce, buns, home canned pickles, bread and butter and dill, as well as the sweet potato fries. I was gonna make homemade barbecue sauce and I totally forgot, but we just have ketchup. We're out of regular barbecue sauce. So that is what we're having tonight. It looks delicious. We were gonna do a veggie, but I didn't have enough lettuce for a salad. This is like all the lettuce we had in the greenhouse, and I'm kind of carroted out, and that's all we have. And we just had green beans the other night. So this is what we're doing tonight. It is Thursday, and it is a dreary day, and it was raining earlier. And I just pulled some of this taco soup out of the freezer. If you saw my meal prep video that I did a couple weeks ago, I still have a few things in the freezer. So this is just a taco soup, and it's still kind of frozen. I hope my pan is big enough. So I'm just gonna put this in here because I don't really feel like cooking tonight, and that's nice to have some frozen stuff on hand. It is about 30 minutes till dinner, so this just can cook for just a little bit. And this is actually meatless. I made a huge batch of this like a month or two ago, and I froze the excess in the freezer. So I have some cooked ground beef with peppers, onions, zucchini that I cooked up a while back. And I'm just gonna add this in here because this is a meatless meal, and this just will add some more substance to this meal. I'm also going to put a little water in here and swish it around and pour it in there. Just gonna give this a mix around. It's not super frozen. I can actually break it all the way up. I'm just gonna let this simmer for about 20 minutes. Last time I made it, the lentils inside here weren't 100% fully cooked. They were a little on the crunchy side. So if I let this simmer for about 20 minutes, then it'll be nice and done. We're gonna serve it with a side of bread, some cheese. The kids will probably top theirs with cheese, and corn chips if anybody so desires, but I'll just eat mine with some sourdough bread. I grossly underestimated how much time frozen, very cold, almost frozen soup would come to a boil. It's been 10 minutes now and it still is not simmering. We're gonna eat a little late tonight. Okay, it's finally boiling after like 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes, which is weird because water boils at a lower temperature at a higher altitude, and we're at a higher altitude and it still took forever. Interesting little tidbit of information. Okay, we're gonna let this simmer for a little bit. It is Friday night, and earlier I threw a whole chicken in the Instant Pot with some seasonings and a little bit of water down in there, and it's been cooking for an hour and on low for 49 minutes. I usually like to let it sit for at least 30 minutes once it's done cooking. I threw that in the Instant Pot as we were running out the door earlier, so I didn't film it, but the seasonings are just salt, pepper, garlic, onion, some sage from the garden, you know, all that good stuff. We got some green beans here, canned green beans, and then in the oven, I've got some roasted red potatoes. Sadly, it's the last of our potatoes. And then in the foil there is the brown bread, sourdough brown bread. We're just gonna have that for dinner. Here it is all plated up. And one thing we love to do with the brown bread is we slather it with some of this grass-fed butter and some creamed honey, and it is so delicious. It is a cold, snowy day that is just begging for soup, so I turned the chicken carcass that we had yesterday into some bone broth, and I have some in the pan for tonight's soup, and then some in these containers to put in the freezer for later. We're going to have a white chicken chili. I've got some whole grain sourdough here that I'm going to slice up and toast that we're going to serve with some butter, and then we have this white chicken chili. Now, I think I showed how to make this in my last cook with me video, but here it is all cooked up. It is so delicious, so hearty and filling, and just tastes amazing with this homemade bone broth. And I also used the chicken from leftover from yesterday in here, and that is what we had for dinner on this Saturday. It is Sunday, and usually in the afternoons we like to have a bigger meal and then a lighter dinner, but today we just had leftovers for lunch, and tonight we're just going to be making some sourdough waffles. This recipe, I'll link it down below. It's based on Farmhouse on Boone, so it's super easy to remember. So for every cup of starter, you do 1 egg, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, a splash of vanilla, a tablespoon of honey, and 2 tablespoons of oil. I just melted some coconut oil, or you can use butter, in my cast iron skillet, and then I dumped that in, and it makes the perfect batter. So we have a waffle maker here that I'm going to spray with some avocado oil so it doesn't stick, and then I'm going to scoop in about 3/4 of a cup of batter is what this Belgian waffle maker takes, and these waffles are so delicious. I found some frozen sliced uncured ham in the freezer, so I'm just going to fry these up in my cast iron skillet, and that'll just add a little extra protein with our meal tonight. As each waffle finishes cooking, I like to put it on a wire rack on a cookie sheet and then just place it in a warm oven. And this just helps to keep it warm until all the waffles are done, and it tends to help them stay a little bit crispier instead of getting soggy.
So that is what we had for dinner this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this cook with me and enjoyed seeing what we had. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.